In Martin Luther King Jr.'s last ever speech, and arguably his greatest ever speech, he concluded with, "Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But that doesn't matter with me because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like most people, I'd love to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not bothered about that now. I just want to do God's will." And he's allowed me to go to the mountain, and I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. As humans, we're wired to seek immediate gratification and use it as fuel to continue pursuing something. And so activism becomes particularly difficult when you don't get to see the fruits of your labor in the near future or at all in your lifetime. But as Dr. King implied, without the people that are willing to climb to the mountaintop and carve out a path to the promised land would cease to exist. The first gay rights group ever, established in 1924, We See You, We Needed You. The Stonewall Writers of 1969, We See You, We Needed You. The members of our community that are today telling stories, offering perspective, and giving us insight to their lives, We see you, we need you. Welcome to my LGBT++ history.
You know how your English teachers are always telling you to start a presentation with a clear introduction? Well, just for the record, this is not a good introduction, which is a bit embarrassing, as I think my Standard 8 English teacher might actually be watching this video. This is, in fact, the 7th introduction I've written since Jono asked if I'd like to record a message for this event. Version 1 included a reference to a musical which seemed a little too stereotypical. Version 2 quoted Desmond Tutu and seemed promising. Version 3, 4 and 5 tried to be humorous but missed the mark. Version 6 was something about heroes. But I'm actually finding this really hard. To be honest, I feel under enormous pressure to get this right. Mostly because, as a blue sky thinker, I always believed this day might come. And now it's actually here. I've got 25 years of things to say in 5 minutes. So last night, I'm not getting off to sleep, and Duncan, my college friend of 25 years, is online on Facebook. We met in 1996 when I was a matric prefect, and Duncan was the Standard 6 new boy allocated to help me with, shall we say, administrative tasks. Duncan is designed for rugby. I am not designed for rugby. At the start of the year, Duncan was taller and broader than me, and by the end of the year, he was taller and broader than most of the other matrics. Duncan now lives in London with his wife and young baby, and I live in Sydney with my partner, James. I pick up the phone and start typing, and Duncan says that it's great to hear from me, and that I'm looking very distinguished, wink emoji, with my grey beard, but is wondering why I'm not asleep given the time difference. So I mentioned receiving a slightly surreal email from the head boy at college asking me if I wanted to take part in an LGBT++ discussion. Duncan agrees that it's an incredible opportunity, and in his usual way is keen to congratulate others first. I mention there's now a Director of Transformation and Equity, and I can't believe things could be so different. I also share that I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed by it all. "Don't be overwhelmed, Guy," Duncan says. "I think you're right. It's changed so much," in caps, since we were there. "You'll know what to say when you get to that moment. You were always so great at public speaking, not like me." "Yeah, but you could play first-team rugby," I said. "But no one's asking me to talk about rugby," Duncan replies. "There's a lot of old boys who can talk about rugby. There's not a lot of you." Even after all this time, I'm completely taken aback by Duncan's perspective. He continues to say that no matter how scary or tough college seemed to be all those years ago, and given the place it was then, look how much it also gave to me. "Look at how awesome you've turned out," he says, "and all the good things you've been able to achieve and keep achieving. So with all the changes that have taken place since our day, imagine how far a college boy could go now in a supportive environment." I tell Duncan to stop flattering me, but he's quick to notice from my photos that I've obviously spent some time in the gym recently, and teases me about growing in the Aussie sunshine. I mention an OA saw me the other day and said he didn't recognize me, saying, "Wasn't I the one who did all the drama and music stuff?" before finally saying, "It's great that you found the gym." With a sad face emoji, Duncan apologises on behalf of all classic rugby players putting on weight in their 30s, and while he jokes that he was probably a Mullins boy. I say, Graham boys would never say things like that, would they? And Duncan says, we actually shouldn't say that kind of stuff. I know we think it's funny and just joking around, but we wouldn't like that if others joked about gay guys in the same way. I also point out that the head boy seems to be in Mullins, so perhaps things really have changed. I try to get Duncan back on track, saying that I genuinely wanted to know what he would say if he had 5 minutes to talk to college. Why me, he says. I'm not the gay one. It's you they want to talk to. If they did ask me, I'd say what I said about making the most of living in a changed world. That when I met you, I met someone so different, and I learned things from you I would never have learned from others. And it benefits me to this day. I love Dali, surrealist art, young Chang, and enjoy some really good classic music. These were things I was introduced to by you. I didn't need any more rugby or Scope magazines. I'm tempted to use some of the heart eyes emoji, but being of a different generation, I'm never quite sure when to use them appropriately. Instead, I asked Duncan if he was teased for being associated with me at school. Not really, he says. You taught me a lot about kindness in Standard 6. So my motto these days is, love never started any wars, so don't be a dick to people who aren't like you. Everyone has something to teach you, which benefits you immensely. Make the most of the people around you. Play rugby and listen to jazz and stick up posters of surrealist art rather than semi-naked girls. I continue to think that really it should be Duncan making this speech, and we discuss how fortunate it was to have the great connection with DSG and what a difference it made. We also talk about Lynette Patterson, who taught us both English, and about how amazing the teachers were and what a massive positive impact many had on us, both then and in everything we've tried to do since. I mentioned I'd read some research recently about the importance of a school student identifying with a teacher who believes in them during their school years. You were great with empathy, Guy. Duncan carries on. Everybody knew that you had a special way of genuinely caring about others, even the ones that weren't very nice to you. Somehow that didn't seem to matter to you. I guess that's the Christian bit, Duncan says. I mentioned that I'd like to talk about being a gay Christian, and Duncan says I'm sure there will be a number of students who can relate to that, and some that are struggling with it. It would be great to reach just one of them with a positive message that you can be both. It would have made such a difference to me, I say, to have had one gay teacher, one gay anything in fact, or a staff member say something positive in relation to gay people. I tell him I lost a bit of confidence and I emailed the headmaster. That's not like you, Duncan says. What's he like? I said I was impressed. Alan Thompson mentioned that the objective of this thing is that every boy can celebrate his unique giftedness and flourish at college. I mean, I was a bit blown away, really. Sounds too good to be true. Suddenly Duncan says, hey, when I was last at college, I swear I saw your Kima honours on a board alongside sport. If guys like you with Kima honours are respected the same way as the guys in the rugby blazers, like me, then that's the best of all possible worlds. Speaking of which, he says, when are you going to tell me that you are adopting? You know that you and Jamie would make incredible parents. That means a lot, I say, but I've got a few things to finish up first. And we talk about how Duncan was slightly disappointed when he had a daughter rather than a son. But since day 2, he now thinks Bella is the most awesome thing in the whole world. I thank him for our chat, and I finish by saying I now know what I want to say to college. So now you're looking at your watches and thinking that he has so gone over 5 minutes. I hope I can borrow a few more moments of your time. Because you see, the hero in tonight's story isn't me. The hero is Duncan. Like the man who gave me my first job, even though I felt obliged in the interview to tell him that I was gay. Like my father, who said it didn't make any difference when I told him. Like your headmaster's words. Like a Christian friend of mine at a hospital right now, supporting his transgender child through an operation. To the chair of our school council and your head boy, I would say these are extraordinary men. But they would say they are ordinary men, secure in themselves and able to appreciate that a wider range of difference is actually a benefit to being male. And for those of you out there who are exploring those differences, keep believing in the positive power of change. Keep believing in the straight men of this world who will stand with you and lift you higher, and you will lift them just by being who you are, rather than what you are not. And to those straight men and women, thank you. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for valuing me. Thank you for respecting me as I am and not asking me to change. Thank you for the millions of straight people who support same-sex marriage. Thank you for standing with us as we ask to live with the ones we love, marry the ones we love, bring up children and go to church with the ones we love, just as you do. Because we are ready for this change. I didn't feel I could start with a quote from a musical, but I will finish with one from The Greatest Showman. How do we rewrite the stars? It's up to you and it's up to me. No one can say what we get to be. And why don't we rewrite the stars? Changing the world to be ours. Thank you.
When I first was asked to speak about this, I really didn't know what to write, especially because since leaving college, my life has been normal. And honestly, that is the most I could have ever wished for when I came out, to just have my sexuality and who I love be something that's incidental. But then I remembered that my first 3 years of school were terrifying. I mean, being at the bottom of the college hierarchy isn't great as it is, and already then having this major secret that you're gay just makes it so much worse. And so I decided to write a letter to me before I started grade 8. And I hope that there's someone watching this who's maybe feeling as scared, and that this will give them some reassurance. Dear Rourke, you're about to start your high school career, which is already a terrifying thing for any 14-year-old boy, let alone one with a massive secret. You've really only now started to come to terms with the fact that you're gay, and I know it feels like your world will come crashing down around you if anyone finds that out, but I'm here to tell you that it won't. That's not to say your experiences will always be easy and that the path you're about to embark on won't be ridden with obstacles and points where you just wish you were straight, but it will also be okay in the end. Over the next 3 years, you're going to do everything you can to make sure nobody finds out. There are going to be conflicting crushes on the matrix that terrify you. You're going to have knives plunged into your heart whenever you hear someone call something undesirable gay. You're going to have many girlfriends and one-sided night jams and attempts to prove that you're attracted to the opposite sex. But what breaks my heart the most is that you're going to pray many, many times to be made straight. You're not that religious anymore, but I want to tell you that if there is a God, your sexuality isn't a misfire in the creation of you. God didn't add too much flamboyance and flair for the dramatic arts by accident. They create a beautiful, intelligent, and gentle soul, having labored over every single part, gay ones included, to make sure that you can grow into a fine man who is no less because of who he loves. While there are many dark tunnels on your road, they help give perspective to the most beautiful parts that you'll also stumble on. Your closest friends are going to be nothing but supportive when you first tell them. Dad is going to cry when you tell him and let you know that he loves you no matter what. Mom is going to take a bit of time to come around, but remember that she's only afraid for you. She grew up with gay friends who lived in fear of a harassment from their peers and the police, and she just wishes that the world would be a little bit easier for you. But after all her fears and worries have subsided, she's going to call you while you're studying in Edinburgh and tell you about all the cute boys she's found on the Great British Bake Off and ask you to hunt them down and bring them home as your boyfriend. The best part for you, though, will come near the end of grade 11. At this point, you'll love yourself as you are and won't want to change a single part, except maybe wanting to hit the gym a little bit more. But the fear that used to hang over your head won't be there anymore, and your secret will begin to feel stifling, like you don't want to hide yourself from the world a second longer. So one day, you're going to post a sappy photo of you and your boyfriend with a cringy caption. No big I'm coming out, just the simple act of bringing the final part of yourself out of the shadows and into the world. It's going to be scary after that. You're going to turn off your phone and have an anxiety-ridden sleep. You're going to wake up so tired the next day that you won't remember what you did. As you walk into the dining hall and collect your food, you'll remember what you did and your heart will start to race. But as you sit down amongst your brothers from Mullins, you realize that no one really cares. You're going to be told how brave you are a couple times throughout the coming weeks, but other than that, your life will carry on as normal. If anything, it gets better, because for the first time in your life, you are able to be yourself without fear. And this will allow you to open up more and make deep friendships that still follow you to this day. Remember to search up about your history and culture. Learn about Harvey Milk, Marsha P. Johnson, RuPaul, Judy Garland, Cupid, Sally Gross, and all the other queer people and allies that have helped pave the road so that you can be yourself so freely. Embrace your more feminine parts. Being in an all-boys boarding school means you're constantly being fed a narrative of masculinity and manliness. But remember, a good meal has a well-rounded balance of flavors. So toning down the traditionally feminine parts of you will create a rock that isn't as bursting with flavor as he could be. And finally, don't be afraid to take care of yourself. It doesn't make you any gayer than you already are. It just means you're not gross like most teenage boys. As much as I'm scared for you, I'm also really excited for you, because you're going to find and love yourself, and there is nothing more special than that. All my love, Rourke.
Hi, I am Terry Harris. I'm just gonna get a little comfortable. I have been asked to speak to you guys a bit about sexuality and my experiences of it when I was at DSG and my experiences since I've left. I matriculated in 2017, so all my experiences I'm speaking about from DSG are from 2017 before, and so I'm really not sure if it's different, if it's more accepting, but when I was there, it definitely put sexuality into boxes. So once you were dating someone, it is automatically assumed that it was going to be a guy, and there was no thought that, oh, maybe it could be a girl. And I think that automatically made people feel like it's not a safe space for them to really be themselves or to come out. And while this was happening at DSG, St. Andrews College was so lucky because they had boys coming out. So I had 2 friends that were in my year that were openly gay. And I think not only did that liberate the boys themselves, but the school and in general. I think the boys finally saw that these guys that like guys are still people. They aren't gross, they aren't weird. They're not watching me while I shower, let's not be cocky. They're still our friends. And I think that's something that DSU was really lacking. And DSU really needed while I was there. I was at DSU for 12 years and I never once heard of an openly gay girl. So again, it makes you feel like it's not a safe space. I basically grew up with a gay uncle. He's married to a Cuban man. And like I said, I had gay friends. So I've always had this mindset oh, it's okay. And I was like, okay, well, if they can kiss whoever they want, why can't I? So I started thinking, okay, well, what would it be like to kiss a girl? Would it be the same? Would it be different? Would it be gross? Would I like it? Would it be more sensual? And through high school, I never actually encountered a girl that I wanted to try anything with, but also I was dating a really great guy, so there was no reason for me to try that. But when we broke up and I went my separate way, I was like, okay, well, I'm finished school now and I can experience what I want to experience and I can do what I want. So yeah, I decided that I'd kiss a girl and see what it was like. And I did my gap year and I still had those thoughts. And then I started at Rhodes University last year and I saw this girl and I was automatically like, oh my gosh, I like you, I want you. And she was openly into girls. And so I snuck my way in there. Very sneaky, I might add. I was like, well, I really want to kiss someone, but I don't know who I'd want to kiss. And she was like, well, dude, I'll help you. And I was like, that's what I wanted all along, but thanks, cool. And fast forward to a year and a half later, we've been dating for over a year and I am so happy. She is someone that's really taught me a lot about myself. And without this experience of dating her, I wouldn't have learned the things that I've learned about myself and sexuality and love. Because at the end of the day, love is love. And everyone always says that, but really it is. Every relationship you get into is going to be different because you're with someone completely new. They have new goals, they have new morals, they have a new mindset. But the thing is, from dating a girl and a guy, there's really no big difference other than, the physics of it and that. But I think that's something that we really need to instill is the fact that everyone says love is love, but there's still the stigma of it at school. It's like, everyone's great, everyone's happy until it's at your back door, until it's in your boarding house, until it's your roommate, until you're showering and you're saying, oh my gosh, does she want me? No, she probably doesn't. And that's the thing, is we need to get past that. We need to learn that people must be happy with who they are. They need to feel comfortable with whatever they want to do. It's their life. And it is your life. Guys, you need to take charge. Grahamstown is actually such an accepting place. I'm at university, the same place that I've lived my whole life, and I've never had a bad experience. I walk the streets with my girlfriend, I hold her hand at Spa, Pick and Pay. We've gone to Cape Town. Be confident with who you are, be confident with what you love. And I'm telling you, it is so rewarding. I am so happy, and I cannot stress this enough. I really just, if I could give you one piece of advice, it's that. Just be happy and be confident with who you love and what you love. You deserve it. And just let people be as well. Like, if someone wants to love a girl and she's a girl, and a guy wants to love a guy and he's just, and you don't feel like it's okay, you know what? It's none of your business. Like, let them be. Let them hold hands. Let them be in love. Because quite frankly, that's their journey. It's not yours.
Hi there, I'm Olyny. I am an old Andrian. I matriculated in 2015. I just want to note to everyone that I don't know everything, and I only can speak about my experience and not necessarily everyone else's. So, my experience being queer, in reality, I knew that I was gay, when I was 10. So, it was a long journey of growing up in a very religious home, and knowing that the Bible says this and it's very against that. So you constantly I constantly was fighting myself and being like, no, I'm not. I cannot be. Until I got to about grade 9. I had made friends with some people who I'm still friends with now, and they guided me towards being more comfortable with myself, being more able to say the words, I am gay. And college was not the kind of place where you could be gay. Back then. It was very much a very dominant fit in or stuff off attitude, like everyone. And being gay was almost being the butt of a joke, almost. So being able to say those words, I had to be really comfortable, and I thank the people in my life for being comfortable. So that's one point that I can only say, for everyone, it's something very important, is that you need to be able to give people the space and the room to be able to trust you. So that's encouraging people, telling people off for saying bad things like faggot, or all those horrible words and slurs, all those horrible opinions that are so outdated. So I just thought that I'll give you guys a few tips in terms of if someone decides to come out to you, because you guys are in the age of people discovering themselves a lot earlier on, and people declaring their sexuality for themselves. And it's pretty much the first thing I'd advise is for you to definitely if they decide to come out to you, acknowledge that you hear them, and acknowledge that you are grateful for them telling you this, because it took a lot of courage to come out to someone. I remember when I started coming out to a few more people, every single time I used to have a little pep talk for myself and hype myself up, because I was so terrified beforehand, because I was so scared of rejection. Also, in that, don't ask invasive questions. Do not ask them if they're a top or bottom, or whatever. Let them steer the conversation, and you follow their okay, cool. If they have a whole speech prepared, or if they just say, hey, I'm gay, you just be cool. Let them know that it also doesn't change anything, unless there is something that they would like you to change. Also obvious things that you should not do is don't be so do you find me attractive if you're the same sex or gender as the person, or same sexual, if you fall into the brackets of their sexual attraction, don't ask that. That's horribly cringe. Also, just let them know that you love them, and let them know that you support them. So let them know that. Also, lastly, don't go tell everyone that this person is now queer or whatever they identify as. It's just not fair. Being someone who has been outed before, it's really painful because this is a journey of discovery that you're going on, and a part of that journey is the decision whether or not to come out. And that's something that is ultimately up to them. I want to say to all the people who are going on this journey or who have gone on this journey and who are still going to be going on this journey, being a part of this community is so amazing because there's so much love. There are problems like any family, but it's such a great place to be. Lastly, happy Pride.
So would I send my son to St. Andrews? This is interesting. As an Andrean, you may want to send your children there. Even how I went to St. Andrews was because my friend's whole family had gone and he was feeling very chuffed that he was third generation. So I would want to pass the second, third generation line to my children. Until a friend of mine, not a friend actually, a lover, at the time was just like, well, if we were to have kids together, I wouldn't want our child to go to the school. And I was like, wow. And he's just like, from the homophobia you've mentioned, we'd also be sending our child there as a gay couple. So my child would go there as the child of gay parents. And I was like, oh, I actually never thought of that. I completely forgot that part. But I would hope I could send my child there. I would hope that private schools and actually the general schooling sort of system in South Africa evolved to a stage that reflected society and was a place whereby everyone did feel welcome. I can see many changes. I mean, in my life, I never thought I would be a gay person who was out at work, who could bring my partner to work functions. And slowly by slowly, that's happened. So if we have schools mirror the sort of society that we're working towards, whereby it's inclusive, it's open, and those schools get to that place, I would hope that I could send my kid there. From what I picked up from the WhatsApp conversation, whereby a lot of people who went to those schools are still stunted though, I wonder whether the child I would want to produce, the level of engagement they had with the world and how they saw the world would be best suited at that school. And a part of me thinks not. So I'd have to evaluate at the time. But as someone who likes having gone to St. Andrews and thinks it's a great school on balance, I would hope that it would be a great school for my child because it was for me.
And how has your time there shaped your life and the person that you are now, just sort of as a closer?
It's shaped my life in incredible ways. 2 nights ago, I was speaking on a panel on work diversity, and my mom happened to go there. And she said what was a throwaway comment. I thought it was a throwaway comment until I also spoke to my father the next day, and she'd relayed sort of the panel to him. And she was just like, yo, we're so happy we took you to St. Andrews. And then I was asking her why. She's just like, because, I mean, you've always been like gifted, but your gifts and how they were sort of nurtured just went on another level once you went to St. Andrews. So I thought, okay, she thinks this. And then my dad said something similar. It's just like, as every day, your mom and I just thank ourselves for that investment. So I think from that perspective, definitely, it's given me a network. And I feel like I was looked after. I'm a person who's very self-aware. I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm not good at. And I think the way I come across, especially in a professional setting, definitely puts me a lot ahead of a lot of my peers. And when I watch how my career has gone, I haven't done anything exceptional. I didn't get the best grades at university. I didn't necessarily study a big commerce sort of field, but when I was interviewing, for example, for my job, it wanted a BCom, and I still applied for it anyway. And then in the interview, and then still shortlisted me. In the interview, they were like, you do know you don't have a BCom. And this was a BCom position. And I was just like, yeah, I know I don't have a BCom, but I know I can do this job. I know I can think, and I know I can learn. And I know that I'll be damn good at this job. And all I need you guys to do is take a chance at me. And I don't think I would have ever been that brave, bold, self-aware, and confident had I not gotten the background and a lot of the skills that I learned at St. Andrews, soft skills, how to interview, how you come across. And I loved it, and it's part of my experience that I would never undo.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Bongani Ndudana Breen. I'm an old Andrian, Graham House class of 1993, which to some of you may be a long time ago. I'm a composer and a music academic by profession, based here in Boston, Massachusetts, where I'm a Radcliffe Fellow at Harvard University. Jonathan Shamwala, the head boy of college, has asked me to give a few, I suppose, remarks around LGBTQ issues, Pride Month, and also maybe my opinions and observations of Black Lives Matters, which is something that is very topical for us here in the United States. Firstly, I would just like to give my own personal sort of background to all of this. I came to college in Standard 6, which I think now is grade 8. This was in 1989. The context of the country was a lot more different than it is now. It was the tail end of apartheid, with all that odious racial discrimination that was the order of the day then. I remember the great deal of political uncertainty also there was in the air, and uncertainty about the future. And all of this was framed by the violence that was going on. Given all of that, I must say that as a young Black gay man, teenager in that case, and I'm not the only one who's Black who thought this, who was a college pupil then. St. Andrews distinguished itself in those days by being this island of inclusion, diversity, non-racialism, and we had extraordinary teachers who cared a great deal for us. And I don't recall myself or any of the Black college students who were in my cohort having any difficulties with issues of prejudice. It just was not the thing to do. It was not allowed. And I shall always be grateful to college for, during those, terrible circumstances that the country was in, it gave us as young people a sense of normalcy. We are now in Pride Month, where we celebrate the inclusion, the histories and the stories of lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and queer men and women, and those who identify as either. In this context, I would like us to reflect on just one word: inclusion. I think societies are stronger if they are inclusive. I think we as a people are more productive, and ideas can be exchanged and innovation and all those good things happen when we celebrate things like diversity and inclusion. And of course, all of this to me builds strong not only communities but great societies and great countries. Diversity is a strength, and I'm hoping that this will be also a motto for your professional lives, where whether you are in a corporate environment or in an academic environment or wherever. Just remember that diversity is something to celebrate in a team, in your colleagues. Particularly is that, just one of the small things that I like about living in societies that are diverse and inclusive is that, you have this sense of sharing of multiple points of view. And I think those kinds of perspectives on problems and issues can only make a society better and stronger. On the issue of the intersection between gay rights and Black Lives Matter, it's worth to reflect on allyship. You do not have to be a Black person to be anti-racist, in the same way that you do not have to be a gay man or a lesbian or a trans person or any sort of like member of the queer community to celebrate inclusion. I think we are now at a stage where we should be defending each other's rights, and when we see injustice, we must act up. And to me, that is the core of allyship. I'm hoping that as you grow up, this is a value that you can embrace for the rest of your lives, and that you carry on educating yourself about the struggle of others. You do not have to be, again, as I said, a member of the LGBTQ community to, show empathy and allyship, towards others. In the same way that you do not have to be Black to stand shoulder to shoulder with people of color. I am very proud of college, and especially the pupils who have instigated, I suppose, this debate. And it says a lot about the spirit of St. Andrews and the values that the school, is founded in that these kinds of conversations can happen with a great deal of civility and openness. And I want to commend you for all of that. Again, Jonathan Shamwala, I think you've shown great leadership by inviting all of us to contribute to this debate. I wish you well, all of you, and hopefully in the near future we may see some of you as undergraduates here at Harvard or come for graduate work. It's a very inclusive environment where we celebrate diversity and inclusion, and certainly is a caring environment. I wish you all well.
Hi, my name is Emma Weaver and this is my LGBTQ plus history. So in grade 9, I realized that I was bisexual and I started coming out to people in my life. And it went really well on that first day, which looking back was really good, because if it had gone badly, I don't think I would have continued coming out to people. And since that day, I've had some really good positive experiences, but I've also had some negative ones, and those are the ones that I want to share today. So one story is something that happened to me earlier this year when I told my parents that I wanted to take a girl to matric dance. And their response was, why can't you just be normal and take a guy like everyone else? Why do you have to draw attention to yourself? And even though I've made my peace with my parents, that really hurt me and opened my eyes to the homophobia and heteronormativity that exists outside of our school environment. Then, on top of that, I've been sexualized by guys saying things like, do you want to have a threesome? I've been called derogatory terms by boys at college. I've been forced to work a lot harder to make friends because I have to prove to people that I'm not this stereotype. I felt really isolated in the school environment, like I had no one to turn to. And I've missed out on a lot of firsts, like a first kiss or a first date, because it's a lot easier to kiss boys and go on dates with boys than it is with girls. All of these stories are pretty negative, but I wanted to share them today to show what I went through and what queer kids like me go through here at school and in life. And hopefully this will inspire someone to make some sort of change, and for people to realize that there's a long way for us to still go to make the school environment safe and welcoming for queer kids.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you who are watching this video. Likely in South Africa, I'm not exactly sure how the regulations regarding the coronavirus are affecting you, but I believe I'm speaking to college boys. My name is Kevin Kabazi. I am a 2010 matric, so that makes me years old. And not too long ago, I was sitting where you are and wondering if I have a place in this world. I am an out and proud gay man. Of course, also being a black man, this presented very specific challenges while I was at St. Andrews. I was in Merriman House, go Merriman! And ironically, I'm not so sure now how it is, but Merriman, because of the name, we got a lot of teasing that that's where the gay boys are. Merriman's gay, and that was just one of the mere microaggressions I felt at the school. Of course, at that time, we still referred to our mentors and mentees as fags and fag masters. I hope that's gone. But of course, that is just, a few of the examples that we faced there. And we used to have different practices around Valentine's Day. And we actually had one or two gay teachers, not publicly gay, but we knew they were gay, and they were the subject to all our derision and all of our teasing. And growing up in that type of space, I didn't feel safe. And there were moments when I, got really close to being found out, or I was actually found out, and it was a terrifying moment for me because I felt in this school of 450, 500 boys, I was the only one who was queer. I was the only one who was gay. And this was terrifying for me. I never really knew that people like me existed, not just in the school, but in this world. And it was such a challenge for me, even once I left St. Andrews, to get into my skin, because there was no evidence that someone like me could ever be valued. And so I speak to you now with possibly some queer individuals, whether they're gay, bisexual, and anything else in between, as well as maybe even people who question their gender, let alone sexuality. If you have questions about whether you really want to live through this world and walk through this world as a boy or as a girl or as anything in between, my message to you is that you are valid, you are loved. This world is made for you. It's made for the beauty that is contained inside your body. You are everything. You are the change the world needs. And I speak to you now as I'm still trying to deal with these things and I'm still trying to live my life. And I really wish at the time when I was at college, someone got to tell me that who I wanted to be was an option, because it wasn't an option for me back then. And I want you to know that it is an option for you. And I know what it's like. I've been in those boarding houses. I've been in those masculine spaces, the sport-obsessed spaces. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge to find your space, to be who you are. Whether that's in the time you spend, the friends you keep. If you feel like boys aren't really type of people you like to associate yourself with, then, it's okay to have best friends who are girls. When I had really good friends who were girls at school, I was teased for that. I was teased and I was made to believe that that's not the type of thing a boy should be doing. But feel free to explore, to feel in love. Let me tell you, when I was at school, I fell in love with so many of my co-students, and feeling so guilty, If you are sitting there listening to this and you have a crush on one of the boys that you're at school with, that's totally valid. And it's, on the other hand, if you are straight and someone shows the interest in you, as a boy shows interest in you, don't tease them. You don't know how much bravery it takes for them to do that. So my message to you is be your authentic self, love who you want to love, and also chase after it. My greatest, the thing I miss most, I feel, from my youth is I've gotten to do everything else later on, but I never really got to be a 15 or a 16-year-old and explore, and, fall in love and date someone with a real connection. And that's all part of this. It's all part of the experience, and I really hope that the type of environment will be fostered by the staff. But from a gay man talking to a group of students who have different ideas of what sexuality is, and your generation is so much stronger and so much more possible, so much more is possible. And I really want to encourage that, to really, really allow yourself to be who you want to be, because it's valid. You really are valid. I'm looking at you, person who's watching this. Who you are is valid, and who you are is valued. So please hang in there, stay strong. It will get better. It will be difficult at the start to find your footing with your family, with your friends, but it will get better. And then you have your whole world ahead of you. So hang in there. Don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. And hang in there for the sake of all of us, because we need you. Happy Pride.
Hello everyone, and happy Pride Month. My name is Ivan Ferreira, and I matriculated from college in 2014. Pride Month is quite important to me, not only because it is a month-long celebration of queerness, but also because it is the month of my coming out anniversary. Today I'm not going to speak about my experiences as a queer body at St. Andrews College, but rather the importance of using your voice and the importance of standing up for others. I also want to raise the importance of standing up for yourself. One of my biggest regrets is the fact that I wasn't able to stand up for myself and speak up for myself. I think that it would have made a large difference in my life had I been able to do that, had I been taught the importance of standing up for myself. But I also understand that I didn't stand up for myself because I didn't believe that I could be proud of my queerness, that it wasn't something to be made fun of. Existing in that space meant for me that I needed to assimilate, and so I spent most of my high school trying to be the perfect Andrian. But I felt I had to be that way because I didn't feel like my queerness would be accepted. So the reason why I want to highlight standing up for someone is because I think in standing up for someone you make yourself seen as an ally. And I think that is one of the most important things we need right now, an ally. Not because queer people are weak or because queer people can't fight the fight, but more because sometimes queer people can't be present to fight the fight. Because sometimes our circumstances means we have to be in the closet, means we have to hide who we are. And that's where the job of those who aren't queer, those who have a voice and those who hold that power comes in. And so today I guess what I'm asking is for you all to be allies. Not only to queerness, but also as white bodies to black bodies, allies as straight bodies to queer bodies, allies as men to women. We need to be active in the removal of homophobia, of queerphobia in our school spaces. It is no longer enough to say, I'm not homophobic, we are not homophobic. It is no longer enough to only have a policy that stands against these things. I am asking us to educate ourselves on the idea of allyship, not only surrounding queerness, but surrounding all the other things I mentioned. Because it is important that we make use of our privileges where we can. And to those who are struggling with their queerness, those who are struggling to accept their sexuality, those who are confused, take your time. Don't feel pressured to understand it right now. Find comfort in knowing that you are not alone. And find comfort in knowing that being queer is not a problem, it's not a sin. It's not something to be ashamed of, it's something to be proud of. I wish in my time at school I could understand that, and I cannot stress the importance of being seen and feeling heard. It's the reason why we have Pride Month. But we also have Pride Month because queerness is not accepted everywhere. We also have Pride Month because we need to be reminded of the fights that were fought before our time, to remember the black trans women, the black queer bodies, and the queer bodies who fought against the system long ago to bring us to where we are today. Pride Month should be a reminder that we need to stand up for ourselves, and also a reminder of what it means to be an ally. Even if you don't identify as queer, there's nothing stopping you from standing up for your friend, or even someone you don't know who's queer. I hope that we can move forward to a place where we are more accepting of queer bodies, and that we take active steps to make those differences and changes in our school environment. Thank you.
On behalf of the St. Andrews College Transformation and Diversity Committee, I'd like to thank everyone for investing their time and watching the videos. For any issues pertaining to this, please contact the psychologist Miss Graham at DSG and Miss Leon Cachet at college.
To you, the listeners and the watchers, thank you for being present and listening. We encourage you to take from this experience a mindfulness of both the LGBTQIA+ community and heteronormativity in your lives and environments. We also encourage the creation of safe spaces for members of the LGBTQIA+ community to feel heard, protected, and accepted.
To those who have worked behind the scenes in creating this video, Shona Shamwana and Daya Kamahashe for creating this platform, Robbie Kirkpatrick for seamlessly curating it, we thank you. This space wouldn't be here if not for you, and we cannot wait to see it grow in the future, changing the environment and attitude toward the inclusivity of queer bodies.
On behalf of the Transformation and Diversity Prefects of DSG and St. Andrews College, we'd like to send an extended huge thank you to those who've shared their stories here today, speaking about their experiences and being vulnerable in spaces which aren't accepting of queerness or the thriving of queer bodies is extremely brave. We are so grateful for your time, courage, and vulnerability.